What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Panda here, and today I want to do a really quick tide guide for Watcher of Realms. So let's just dive right into it. So guys, if you haven't already noticed, which I'm sure you have, the game kind of tells you how to do this, but if you just started the game and you're like, what is this whole tide nonsense? I'm going to give you a real quick, brief synopsis of what tide is. Tide is a sort of kind of AFK game mode. I'm going to be real honest with you. You get 3 chances to clear waves every day, so it is time locked, which is why you can't get something, for example, like the Volka questline done until day 19, because you have to get a quest. There's a quest for clearing Tide 55, which you cannot unlock until the start of day 19. So that's kind of one of the things that's a little bit frustrating. But you'll also notice down here in the bottom right hand corner of the screen that there is a BP requirement. Early on, this BP requirement is basically if you have higher BP, you beat it. You can AFK, you basically beat it. This goes on for quite a while. It starts to get more and more higher, more and more difficult the higher you go. So for example, I'm on wave 82 right now, and I'm still pretty high above that BP cap, but most people in my roughly 30 days of game time are probably not going to be quite this prepared because I have pushed very far in gear rates. But the goal is to be as high BP as possible. The best way to do that is to use the best champions you have on your account, preferably ones that are 6-starred, promoted, very well geared, etc. Once you get to those higher levels, though, you'll need things such as Tide talents. So every day you're going to be getting talent points. This comes from the form of both clearing waves and from doing your onslaughts. You'll see down here in the bottom left, you get to claim this once per day. This gives you essentially random rewards based on all of the clears. It's kind of like an auto clear function. If you have like a tower game mode in another game and you've cleared up to floor 88, you might be able to auto clear to 88, and then you have to beat 89, 90, whatever. And then the next day you can clear up to the new highest stage. And it gives you a small amount of rewards based on however far you've made it up. This is where you get basically the best place for you to get things such as rare skill dust, epic skill dust, and legendary skill dust. You also get some Demon Soldier shards and potentially some stamina, some gold, as well as more talent points. So basically, you want to get these talent points. You're going to kind of be told to put talent points into certain things. In order to get to the higher talent point levels, you do have required amounts of talent. So you'll see here, if I want to get this level 3, I need to have 1,765 talent points in my talent tree. Of course, I'm over that, so I'm able to put this up once I get the 140 points required. But if I were to go down further, I think there's one. Oh yeah, here, this one goes to 2150, right? So it goes higher, the higher you go. And also, of course, you end up needing more of these talent points as well. And eventually you'll go down and get further, right? So in order to get Resuscitation, you have to have Wall of Unity, which is this talent right here. In order to go down further, maybe into here, you need to have Resuscitation, right? Here, you need to have Resuscitation, right? So you kind of have to get the previous talent points in order to push up. And something that I think is important that maybe not a lot of people realize is how important things such as 6-star max promotions are, as well as making sure that you take into account the bonuses you gain from your talents. And what I mean by this is these talents specifically. When there are more than 3 mages on the field, you increase all of your units' AoE damage by 30%. If you have 2 mages, this talent does nothing for you. So you want to make sure that you have 3 mages that are 6-starred max promoted with gear on. Otherwise, you won't get the best value out of this talent. Same thing goes for here. You want to have 3 defenders because they reduces the damage your heroes take. You want to have 3 marksmen, right? This is something that I think a lot of people don't realize is, they're just putting whatever heroes they have. And in the early game, that is, of course, you want to do that because you don't want to... Tide's not something you build for, right? You build for your gear rates. You build for your guild boss. You gear for, whatever progression you're trying to make in the game. This is sort of an afterthought. So once you have, those things built up, maybe you start thinking about, oh, well, maybe I need a 3rd fighter, or I need a 3rd defender, or whatever the case is, right? I think that's something that's important that a lot of people don't necessarily keep in mind. But making sure that you kind of build around these things is going to allow you to push much, much farther into Tide. You'll also see that there's a bunch of different things here. So, for example, when a marksman lands a crit hit, they have chance of dealing damage based off max HP, which is really good for bosses. Ground units have HP and attack increased. And then mage's AoE target cap goes up a lot, so AoE mages are very powerful in this game mode because they can hit more and more targets, right? So there's a lot of really beneficial things in these talents that you want to keep in mind. So say, for example, you have a really, really powerful AoE mages, like you've got, you know, Comet and Vierna and all these other really powerful AoE mages, and you have some decent fighters or some decent marksmen, but nothing crazy good. Make sure you have your 3 marksmen on the field, but then maybe just stack mages because you're gonna have a ton of AoE damage, which is really, really powerful, especially because you'll get this extra AoE damage here as well. So I definitely think that sort of an introductory guide was important because a lot of people, I feel, don't do this every day. I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm on day 30 or day 40. I don't have Volka. How did you get Volka?" I know I'm stuck on trying to beat Tide. I'm only on stage 30 and I need to beat 55. So it's very important that part of your daily, gameplay is coming in here and beating your Tide levels. Once you get to the higher levels and you're in that 100 to 125 range where it starts to get really, really difficult, then sure, go and check it once a week, maybe only once every couple days, because it's going to take a lot to be able to push once you get to those higher levels, because the BP jumps are significant. I know I just watched a Fastidious's video on his 100-day account, and he said that at 125 it was like, I think it was like 7.1 million or something like that he needed, and then he beat that stage, and then the next stage is like 7.6 million. So that's a very huge jump in BP for the next level, and so that's something to keep in mind, is making sure that you check in on it and see, hey, have I beaten this BP level? Hey, can I maximize a little bit to get one more stage? Because the next stage you get up, the more rewards you'll get from your Onslaught. Which I did just realize my face is covering up Onslaught. It's in this like corner area over here in the bottom left hand. I'm assuming you guys know what that is. You've seen it before, but that's how you're able to get all of those things, is by claiming that down in the bottom left hand corner. But guys, yeah, that's Tide. I just want to do a real quick one to kind of give you a brief synopsis of what to do on Tide. You get a ton of rewards from Tide. I think this is the last thing I'll say before I go. But for example, you get these Epic Hero Soul Stones, which are very, very good for things such as Greed, Deimos, Epic Lords. Those sort of champions that are very, very difficult to pull or have a lower pull chance. Or if, say, for example, you're trying to push Gear Raid 19 for Stage 3, Gear Raid 3, Stage 19, and you have an A4 E-Drill, and, getting that A5 is going to push you in that stage, it might be worth it to use an Epic Hero Soul Stone to pump her up to A5 to get that, additional damage, because every time you kill a unit with her A5, it extends that duration, which means you get more ultimate. So definitely some very important gear in here. You also get these legendary skill crystals, which is phenomenal. You'll also get a ton of epic skill dust, legendary skill dust, and then once you get a little bit higher, you start to get something really, really good, which is right here at 105. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about Volka and how amazing she is. Even at base, she's very good. She has that healing multiplier. She's a nightmare unit, and so she can help you get that Wrath Lord skill pumped up. But at 105, you get a Volka Soul Stone. This is basically a free legendary, right? It's a free legendary for Volka, which means you can take her straight to A1. And if you don't already know what Volka can do, we'll go ahead and pull her up here. This is Volka, and if you go to her A1, it is crazy powerful. Ally revival time is reduced by 25%. This is where you get things like the cheese strat for Guild Boss, of being able to cheese through the third shield in Nightmare 4, or even Nightmare 3, but Nightmare 4 I think is where it's used the most in the early game, where you can basically just leave one single very tanky or unkillable unit, remove all of your units, and then place them back down to get more damage after the third shield. A lot of people use that strategy, and it works really well because Volka reduces that revival time by 25%, which is very, very powerful. but also it works really well in places like Gear Raid 2. I don't know if you've seen a lot of the videos that have been coming out about Gear Raid 2. Basically, they drop a unit, it dies, and then they drop another unit, it dies, right? And you're able to get a lot of quick revivals on your champions. It opens up for a lot of very skilled gameplay, which, you know, maybe that's not your cup of tea, but for someone like me who's really trying to min-max my account and push as far as possible, I can't wait till I get A1 Volka. It's going to be pretty soon. You know, we're on stage 82, I think we're pushing today in just a couple hours. So we'll be getting 82, 83, 84, and we need to get to 105, which means we've got 21 more stages, which means in 1 week I will be able to get my A1 Volka, and from then on, hopefully Gear Raid 2 is a joke, but we will see what happens. Guys, that's going to be it for me today. Please make sure to like this video if it gave you any piece of useful information, or if you just liked the video because of me. I don't know. Leave a comment down below with what Tide stage are you on, and maybe give us an idea of what that BP is, because if you're in one of those higher stages, I want to know what my BP needs to be at stage 105, because I'm really curious if I'm going to have to mid-max when I get there or not. But again, guys, if you want to see more content from me, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps push these videos out. And that's it for me. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.